For years, Buckingham Palace didn't say a word, and that silence, it wasn't calm, it wasn't peaceful, it was loud. So loud that people across the world started whispering the same question again and again. Why? Why were Meghan and Harry's children never treated like real royal heirs? Why were Archie and Lilibet missing from official portraits, palace balconies, royal ceremonies, all the things that welcomed every other royal child into history? Reporters pushed, experts speculated, the public waited, but the palace stayed frozen, quiet, unreadable. And in the royal world, silence is never accidental. Silence is strategy. Then something shifted. Behind those iron gates, behind stone walls that have guarded secrets for centuries, movement began. Not gossip, not leaks, not anonymous rumors. This time it was official. Palace insiders confirmed documents had already been prepared, signed, sealed, final. These weren't warnings, these weren't reminders, these were orders. Orders that would permanently redefine who Archie and Lilibet were and who they were not. And once those papers were set in motion, there was no going back. The message was brutal in its simplicity. Archie and Lilibet's claim to royal identity would no longer stand. This wasn't about revenge, it wasn't about emotion, it wasn't even personal. This was about law, about order, about a rulebook older than anyone alive today, one written when kings ruled by divine right and royal bloodlines were treated like sacred treasure. The clock had turned back to 1917. Britain was at war. Inside the palace, King George V faced a growing crisis. The royal family's foreign ties were becoming dangerous. German names, European connections, public distrust. And to protect the crown, he issued a decree that would shape the monarchy for the next 100 years, the Letters Patent of 1917. On paper, it looked dull, formal, almost boring. But hidden inside those lines was power. The rules were clear. The cold, unforgiving. 1, the child must be of legitimate royal bloodline. 2, the birth must be officially recorded and recognized by the crown. 3, the child must be formally connected to the Church of England through baptism. No shortcuts, no modern twists, no personal interpretations. Those rules turned royal titles into something more than decoration. They became legal identity, sacred recognition, a historical stamp that decided who belonged and who didn't. And for generations, every royal child followed that script perfectly, until suddenly one didn't. When baby Archie Harrison was born in 2019, the world smiled. Cameras flashed, headlines celebrated, everything looked normal. But quietly, deep inside the paperwork, something felt wrong. Something didn't sit right. On Archie's original birth certificate, Meghan was listed by her full legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle. Ordinary, correct, routine. But then, weeks later, without explanation, that document changed. Her name vanished, replaced by a title. Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. No announcement, no clarification, just a silent edit on one of the most important documents in royal history. And when reporters noticed, chaos erupted. Meghan said palace officials forced the change. Palace aides denied it. Fingers pointed, accusations flew. But no one showed proof. And the question grew darker. Was this just formality, or was Archie being positioned differently in royal records? Because once a royal birth certificate is altered, that's not paperwork anymore. That's history being rewritten. That single change cracked something open. For centuries, royal records were untouchable, sacred, flawless. But with Archie's certificate, that perfect system fractured. Hairline cracks at first, barely visible. But cracks never stay small. They spread. And by the time Meghan gave birth again, those cracks had split wide open. June 2021. Not in London. Not under palace bells. Not with royal doctors standing by. But in California, a baby girl was born. Lilibet Diana. A name heavy with meaning. The Queen's childhood nickname. Princess Diana's legacy. It should have been a royal celebration. It wasn't. No palace announcement, no royal witnesses, no official notice on an easel outside Buckingham Palace. Instead, the news came from California, wrapped in a polished press release written by Meghan and Harry's team. Bright words, cheerful tone. But to royal watchers, it sounded like thunder. Because for hundreds of years, every royal birth followed one rigid script. A royal doctor confirmed it. The palace authenticated it. Photographs photographs were archived for history. This wasn't vanity, this was proof. Proof that the bloodline continued. Proof that the crown recognized the child. With Lilibet, the palace said nothing. No royal seal, no confirmation, no archive entry. And inside the monarchy, silence means only one thing. This birth was not theirs to claim. Months later, Meghan spoke proudly about Lilibet's baptism in California. She described it as joyful, sacred, loving. Photos were released, statements shared, but behind palace walls, something else was happening. A baptism isn't just symbolic in royal life, it's legal. It binds the child to the Church of England, the very church the monarch governs. Without that link, a royal child isn't recognized. Palace whispers spread quietly. The California baptism was never formally registered with the Church of England, which meant in royal terms, it didn't count. And in a system built entirely on protocol, an unrecognized baptism is the same as no baptism at all. To the public, that might sound small, technical, petty, but inside the monarchy, it was seismic. Because without a recognized christening, Lilibet wasn't just outside tradition, she was outside the chain connecting every royal to the throne. Her parents saw joy. The palace saw a breach. Two worlds drifting apart. California sunshine on one side, cold mechanical monarchy on the other. And for Meghan, this wasn't just paperwork, this cut straight into identity. From the moment she married Harry, her image was royal. Duchess, mother of heirs. That image powered everything. Interviews, documentaries, memoirs, brands. One message echoed through it all, touched by the crown. But that touch was slipping away. Without palace recognition, her children could no longer anchor that identity. Without titles, without institutional blessing, her brand began to wobble. And for Harry, who traded duty for freedom, the realization must have felt like the ground collapsing beneath him. Because if the monarchy rejected his children, what did that make him? By the time the palace silence became unbearable, Harry was no longer calling as a prince. He was calling as a father. Late nights, time zones crossed, voices lowered. He pleaded, he begged. He reminded them that stepping back from royal duties was never meant to erase blood, that oceans didn't change lineage, that his children were still Windsor blood, still part of the story, even if they grew up far from palace walls. But the answer that came back was colder than anything he had ever known. This is not about emotion. This is about order. This is about the future of the crown. Those words hit harder than any public criticism ever could. Because in that moment, Harry understood something painful. The monarchy wasn't a family. It was an institution. And institutions do not bend for love. To Harry, it must have felt like watching his family tree being trimmed right in front of him. Branches cut, names erased, futures rewritten without ceremony or apology. And while the world still debated, speculated, argued online, the palace was already moving forward, quietly, efficiently, ruthlessly. Then came the point of no return. No cameras, no statements, no dramatic announcements, just documents. Formal, sealed, final. Ink pressed onto paper with the weight of centuries behind it. Clerks did what clerks have done for generations. They carried out history's instructions without emotion. The decision was absolute. 1, no prince or princess titles. 2, no ceremonial roles. 3, no place in the official line of succession. 4, no crown-funded protection. 5, no acknowledgement in royal records. On paper, it looked clinical, almost neat. But in the monarchy's world, titles are not decoration. They are identity. They decide who belongs to history and who disappears into its margins. And so it happened. From Prince Archie to just Archie. From Princess Lilibet to just Lilibet. This wasn't a suspension. It wasn't temporary. It wasn't something that could be undone with a conversation or apology. The palace didn't press pause. It pressed delete. Royal archivists updated records. Digital databases adjusted silently. Where titles once existed, there was now empty space. No scandal, no explanation, just absence. And sometimes absence speaks louder than any headline ever could. For years, Meghan and Harry were called rebels, fighters, disruptors. They told their story to the world, signed contracts, released documentaries, shared pain, shared anger, stood as symbols of defiance. But the truth was far colder. You can only be a rebel if the crown still claims you. The monarchy never argued publicly, never traded insults, never defended itself on talk shows. It waited. And when the moment came, it acted with precision. No rage, no drama, just removal. Names, titles, legitimacy, gone. The message was unmistakable. The crown survives because it obeys its own rules, not the noise of personalities. For Meghan, the loss cut deeper than public perception. The identity she had built, Duchess, royal mother, woman tied to history, began to slip through her fingers. Without institutional recognition, without palace backing, the image shifted from royal to celebrity, and the monarchy had always known the difference. For Harry, the pain was quieter. He had given up duty, believing blood would remain untouched. But now he was forced to face a brutal reality. Walking away didn't protect his children. It isolated them. And so Archie and Lilibet will grow up under California skies, surrounded by warmth, by love, by laughter. They will know freedom instead of protocol, sunlight instead of stone corridors, their parents' voices instead of palace whispers. But when history books are written, when future generations trace the royal bloodline, their names will not appear beside the crown. There will be a gap, a silence, a blank space where something once almost existed. And that silence will say everything. It will say the crown chose order over emotion, lineage over love, history over individuals. For the monarchy, the record is clean now. For Meghan and Harry, it is the end of their royal story. Because once the crown erases you, you are not a rebel. You are not in exile. You are simply gone.